Welcome to the latest episode, a Texas-sized edition of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. As I mentioned last week, I'd be at Circuit of the Americas all weekend covering all three races. In other words, we've got a lot to cover. So let's not waste any time and get right to it. First, let's go back to Friday's Truck Series qualifying. And the top story was Connor Zilisch. The 17-year-old won the pole and set a track record in the process. How good is he? Listen to what Kyle Larson had to say about him.
So I'm disappointed that he was only like 3/4 of a second faster than the field and not more than that, because I figured he would be. But no, I texted him earlier this week and I was like, man, you should smash the field this weekend. So it'll be more of the same tomorrow as long as nobody runs through him.
Zilisch didn't get run through, but his lead didn't last very long as he locked him up after going up the 130-foot hill and missed turn one, dropping him deep in the field. Despite that rough start, the youngster rebounded and finished fourth. The other big news from the trucks race was there were 20 cutting the course penalties handed out during the 46-lap event. And then on lap 40, Marco Andretti experienced something most NASCAR drivers and fans have never seen when he lost the entire rear housing of his number 4 Roper Racing truck. It was a bizarre scene for sure, and one that everyone was talking about. A few hours later, the Xfinity cars took to the track. And remember all of those shortcutting the course penalties from the trucks? Apparently, the Xfinity guys and girl didn't get the message. 16 times it happened in turns 3 through 6. That race came down to a wild finish with Shane Van Gisbergen and Austin Hill battling for the win in double overtime. But as NASCAR fans know, when the two cars up front are tangling, the car in third place is in the catbird seat and can sometimes take advantage of the situation. That's exactly what happened. As Hill and SVG got into it, Kyle Larson swooped in low, past them both, and cruised to victory. After the race, SVG and Hill both had different versions of events. Take a listen.
But yeah, getting into one, like I don't know what happened, but like right here, where the start-finish line basically is, like I got to his bumper and I hit him really hard, which was weird. I don't know if he like semi-missed a shift or not. So I hit him, and then as we went up the hill, like there's some bumps far left. We both were going over the bumps. I was obviously hitting him, and then I got off of him once we got to the corner, and it looked like he was wheel hopping at that point. Slid up, so then I was like, oh, this is my time, and took the lead.
And I'm thinking so many things in my head what I could have done different, but at the restart I couldn't have done much different. I was on the inside and just got driven through. So, but we've seen that here every year. That's kind of how it is. So I was expecting it, I guess. Yeah, I go see him. I got no problem with him, but I just raced him how he raced me. So yeah, it's what it is.
I'm really not sure what Hill was talking about, but clearly, as Logano said on the broadcast, the 21 drove through SVG. While the New Zealander crossed the line second, he was, appropriately enough, levied a 30-second time penalty post-race for shortcutting the track on the final lap, dropping him to a 27th place finish. Also on Saturday, there was Cup practice and qualifying. The GOAT, MJ, was in attendance. It was really cool to see his airness. Oh yeah, also don't want to forget someone else who was there that I really like. My daughter Haley and her boyfriend Nick joined me for their first ever NASCAR races. If you followed my channel for a while, you know they both helped me repaint and redesign my new studio. This is a family sport, and it was great to have family come see me at the office. Also on Saturday, drivers visited the media center. I got a lot of great content I'll be sharing in the coming days in videos about specific subjects, like driver rivalries. But one of the most interesting comments from visiting with all of the drivers came when I asked Ryan Blaney about his recent remarks on being like Jeff Gordon. Take a listen. As the champion, you've done a lot of things, and I heard you say you want to be like Jeff Gordon in the 90s. So does that mean Saturday Night Live would be something you would be interested in doing? And if so, how does that happen?
We've talked about it. It's a big commitment. You got to be there all week. And I've always said if it interferes with racing, I'm not doing it, right? I mean, racing is the obvious number one goal. But it's something I'd like to do. I would really enjoy it. I mean, grew up watching Saturday Night Live, and I really enjoyed it. And I remember watching Jeff on it. It was a rerun, but you know, I remember watching Jeff on it, and you know, yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I think those opportunities are golden to grow the sport and grow yourself and you know, your team and things like that. So yeah, it's been talked about. It's just how do we do it?
Here's to hoping this happens. Another question I presented to multiple drivers was what they thought after the race the week before at Bristol and the excessive tire fall off. I wanted to know if going the route of IndyCar or F1 and using multiple tire compounds could be a possible solution to what happened at Bristol and potentially help with short tracks and the whole horsepower debate. Here's what they had to say. Concept of offering you guys multiple compounds like F1.
Yeah, I love that idea. I certainly think that it's something that we should look at, you know, to give us the option to put on faster tires that go away or harder tires to stay on. I certainly think that that's something that needs to be looked at and certainly could be an option.
Yeah, I mean, for the race last week in particular, I don't think it would have mattered. And honestly, they could have brought a harder tire or a softer tire, and the way that the track just disintegrated what we had, I don't think it was going to matter. You know, I like the idea of having more options and more ways to separate yourselves with having a softer tire compound option in the race. I think they tried that at Charlotte for the All-Star race, but it probably just wasn't a big enough difference. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for trying stuff.
Yeah, you know, I've been an advocate of that for a while. I don't think that's going to happen. There's some practicality to that from the Goodyear side that makes that very difficult to execute. But I like the idea. It's great on paper. It's great for everybody, but the people actually have to do the work, which is Goodyear. So probably a little bit more than I think they're willing to bite off.
So interesting stuff, and who knows, maybe NASCAR will consider it. And finally, let's go to Sunday's Cup race. Remember all of those course-cutting penalties from the day before? There were only 4 on Sunday, and one of them was handed down to the number 9 team and Chase Elliott on lap 40. His team pled their case with NASCAR that he got loose, but officials weren't buying it. Needless to say, the 2020 champion wasn't happy.
Well, sorry. Fuck you. Yep, keep fighting here. We'll make the best we can out of it.
After Elliott's teammate William Byron won the race, his second victory in the first 6, and proving once again like last year that he's the top of the class at Hendrick Motorsports and the field, I checked out social media to see what people were saying about the race. There were mixed reviews. What's always interesting after a race is listening to SiriusXM NASCAR Radio and the call-in show, and the various perspectives of those who actually attended the race versus those who watched it on TV. Unsurprisingly, those attending always have a much better experience. I know from being there and seeing it myself and talking to fans, it was an entertaining race. The different strategies at the end made it intriguing, and anyone paying attention saw how fast Christopher Bell was reeling in William Byron in the closing laps. One more lap, and who knows what happens. But those watching at home, at least according to a lot of comments, didn't enjoy it. I thought former driver and Xfinity Series team owner Tommy Joe Martins, who I respect a ton, summed it up best on X. As a team, we love NASCAR at COTA. Our sponsors love Austin. Broadcast has to do a better job showing more battles because I know they're happening throughout the field. This event isn't going away anytime soon. Fun place to go see a race. Don't blame the teams for a race not being exciting. They're all out there racing hard. Broadcast has to make it exciting. F1 races have a ton of energy thanks to the broadcast team. Feels like often we're lacking that, regardless of track type. Martin's last words say it all. Regardless of track type. I've said it for years that Fox needs to step up their game. And it's important for them to do it now more than ever. Why? All of the momentum from the Netflix docuseries is legit. Despite there being no official attendance numbers released, it was easily the biggest crowd at COTA in the first 4 years. Now, all of these new fans are tuning in to see the action, and they're not seeing it because the Fox production team is just plain lost. As a result, these fans A, might not tune in again, and B, won't ever attend a race. Please, Fox, please address this. Although, as I say those words, I'm not holding my breath. And finally, my last item from the weekend was the confrontation between Kyle Busch and his former Joe Gibbs Racing teammate, Christopher Bell. You may or may not have seen my version of the incident, which I posted as a YouTube short right after it happened. You may have seen NASCAR's version on X, which is funny because you can see me in their video. For those of you who haven't seen my version, I'll preface it with this. I saw Kyle Busch out of the corner of my eye walking toward me, and it was at a pace strikingly similar to what he did at Las Vegas in 2017 when he took issue with Joey Logano. Take a look and listen. I know it's hard to hear clearly, but here's what I think he said. That's twice in 3 years you have wrecked me. I've got great respect for you. Have I ever wrecked you? To which Bell responded, no. Busch then followed up with, okay, it's blanking coming. I have to say it was a pretty intense exchange and it all happened just feet from me. But I think the most interesting part about all of it is this happened just over 24 hours after I asked Kyle Busch a question about rivalries in the sport. Listen to this.
Steve Phelps has talked multiple times this year. He's mentioned embracing rivalries and the driver rivalries. So if we had a marquee rivalry that would be good for the sport, for the new Netflix fans that have come on, what two drivers do you think would be that marquee names? I've talked to other drivers and your name has come up in the rivalry.
Yeah, everybody's scared of sponsors, so I am too, but sign us to a guarantee that we don't lose our sponsors. We'll do whatever the hell needs to happen for TV ratings, but all in all, I don't know. There's definitely some guys out there that have some good comebacks and some good personas that could definitely play into that very well. So I'm not sure I'm one of those guys, but so be it.
Oh, I definitely think he's one of those guys. He has been for years. It's only since he joined RCR last season that Rowdy has been much less rowdy. What we saw on Sunday was a flash of the old KFB. And his parting words to Bell about its coming tells me this thing isn't over. Somewhere, Steve Phelps is smiling. What a weekend at COTA. I want to get your thoughts on the weekend's worth of activities. What do you think about Connor Zilisch? I know I only showed what Kyle Larson had to say, but multiple other drivers like Ryan Blaney were asked about him and they were all impressed. What did you think about Andretti's axle in the truck race? And what happened between Austin Hill and Shane Van Gisbergen in the Xfinity race? And lastly, what did you think about the Cup race and what happened after between the two former JGR teammates in Busch and Bell? Remember, make sure to check out all my writing at heavy.com and beatingandbanging.com. Also, don't forget to sign up for my weekly email newsletter on beatingandbanging.com that is delivered each Friday to your inbox with a recap of the week's events, including what was said on the NASCAR-specific podcast. And as I also mentioned last week, I've now officially got a podcast that's part of the Blue Wire Network. Check it out and let me know what you think. Thanks again, guys, for supporting the channel, and have a great rest of your day.